Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Samp&Chance. My name is Bobby Sampson, joined as always with my man with the master plan, Mr. Chance Michaels. And right beneath us, we have Mighty Max, a man who loves his boxing. He's decided to join us on the show today. He's got quite the following on YouTube. He talks about boxing. He loves boxing. So we thought we'd have him on and to kind of just pick his brain a little bit, kind of similar to what we did with Connor the Mother there, Chance.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining
Max.
us, Max. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Of
Max,
course,
thank
man.
you
Thank you
very
so
much,
much for
man.
having me on. I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic, man. So first off, brother, before we get into any of this, how did you get into boxing? And what was it for you?
Well, I was 6 years old. It was May of 2012. And as ironic as this sounds, my mom actually wanted to show me some boxing, which is kind of ironic. And she showed me a couple fights. It was a Floyd Mayweather versus Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez versus Shane Mosley. So it was a really fun card. And I just got hooked. After that, I just kept watching. I watched Chavez versus Andy Lee. And then a few months later, Martinez versus Chavez Jr. And since then, I've just stayed attached to sport. I got into it very young, and it stuck with me. Not many sports have been able to over the years, but boxing's one of them that definitely has.
Absolutely. So boxing, UFC, just combat sports, or just predominantly boxing for you?
Boxing mainly. I also, for a period of time, and still now, but at one point, I was really into basketball. I still like basketball, but boxing is definitely my favorite sport. And UFC, I've definitely became a fan of as of late also.
Okay. And why?
Max, who are some of your favorite fighters growing up that hooked you?
For me, I would say Triple G, Terrence Crawford, Lomachenko, Usyk, AJ, and some of my favorite fighters that are retired are Sergio Martinez and Timothy Bradley.
All right,
Cool.
well, fantastic, fantastic. So when you watch boxing today, the current state of boxing, how do you feel about it? Are you content with what you're seeing? Do you hope do you expect more from boxing?
I'm definitely not content with what we're seeing. If you look at other sports, for the vast majority, they get what they want, they get what they expect. Even in UFC, a non-scheduled sport, all the fights they want virtually they get. And for us, we can't get really any of the true fights that we want to see. We have sanctioning bodies in the way. We have promotion in the way. We have many factors blocking off the main fights we want to see. There's 3 fights that we all really want to see this year. Crawford Spence, Beterbiev Bivol, and Usyk Fury. There's a very strong chance that we get none of them. So I'm definitely not content. And another thing I'm not content about is the inactivity of these fighters.
Yeah.
We give a fighter credit if he fights twice a year, and that says a lot because if he fights twice a year, that's still not even enough. But the fact that that's even considered impressive shows that we're definitely going down the wrong path as a sport.
No,
Well, speaking
absolutely.
of Fury Usyk, Bob Arum said today it's official, it's done. He just hasn't announced a date yet because they're just securing a location. So he said we'll see that by April. So
Yeah,
according to
Well, that's
Mr. Bob.
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I really hope so.
yeah.
The thing is with Tyson Fury, you really can't take anything too literal with him. There's so many times where you expect something to happen from Fury, and then last minute he backs out, mind tricks, whatever it is. So let's hope it happens, but I just don't trust Fury to sign his
Well,
part.
we're hearing April 29th is the date that they've scheduled it for, probably in Saudi Arabia. And you're completely right, Max. I totally agree with you there. I mean, Tyson Fury is his worst enemy in most cases here. I think the Usyk fight could have happened a long time ago, but again, it's him ultimately. No matter what he says, it's him who's kind of making it, stall. So
Yeah.
hopefully this is something we can look forward to here and it's going to actually happen. Another thing I wanted to touch on really quick here, I was just kind of reading about this and kind of took a look at it before we went on the air. Did you guys catch the press conference between Benavides and Plant today?
I
I
did.
did.
caught
I
some of
did.
it.
Now, would you
Mhm.
say it was staged, or why is Benavides so fucking angry?
I don't. I think it was obviously they're putting on a little bit of entertainment for the crowd, but I think it was pretty much genuine. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both for sure. I think a lot of the times they tell them ahead of time what they want to see from the fighters. However, if it was staged, even if it was mainly not staged or even partially staged, it doesn't matter. I really didn't like how Benavidez came off, in my
No.
opinion. And I like both fighters, honestly. Both a while back I made a tweet saying who'd win between Benavidez and Plant. Plant quote tweeted it, then Benavidez put it on his Instagram. So they both gave me some traction. So I like both of them equally, to be honest. But I didn't like how Benavidez acted. Plant was extremely down to earth, very calm.
Yep.
He took some digs at Benavidez, but that was after Benavidez really started to come at him and his father started to come at him. I wasn't a fan of that at all. And it was a very entertaining press conference, but Benavidez did not make himself look too great today.
Do you
Who do
think
you favor
Benavides?
in that fight?
I favor Benavidez currently. I think Plant will start strong. He will do okay in the middle rounds, and Benavidez will slowly start to claw his way into the fight. And by the later rounds, 10 or 11, I'd say, probably around 10, Benavidez will have broken him down and stopped him late. For a while, I was picking Caleb Plant to defeat David Benavidez. When the fight was first being talked about, I believe in 2019, I was pretty confident Plant would win, but as time has passed, Benavidez has gotten bigger and stronger, and we've seen more chinks in Plant's armor. And Benavidez is, to be fair, I still, after looking at all of it, I'm edging out Benavidez by stoppage.
Do you think his anger will cost him though? Possibly, like if he's just angry, why? Like I'm trying to understand why he's so angry. Just like, I get it. I know the fight that he wants. I know the fight that we all want to see is Benavidez Canelo.
Mhm.
So do you think this will hopefully help him get that fight if he wins?
Well, it'll definitely help him get the fight if he wins. And when it comes to his anger, why he's angry, I just think it's natural bad blood, and I think Plant is reacting to it in a much more calm way, and Benavidez is using it as fuel to his fire, and I do think it will help Benavidez. Benavidez punches with a lot of spite. When you watch his fights, you really see his emotion when he fights, and I think that will benefit him for this fight. And if he beats Plant, I definitely think the Canelo fight's more likely. Do I see it happening? Not really sure, but it definitely helps his chances, as he'll now be the WBC mandatory if he gets the victory.
Yeah. I mean, the way it's looking right now with Canelo, if he does fight Benavidez, it'd probably be in early 2024 or May of 24. It's probably a year off. I mean, they're talking John Yard for him. I don't know who he is per se that well. Do you have any knowledge on who they're talking for?
Who, John Ryder?
Yeah, John Ryder,
I know
sorry.
I know John Ryder. He's a decent fighter, but he's definitely not on the level of Canelo Alvarez. It's one of Canelo's more easy opponents in the last few years for sure.
Yeah.
Max, what did you think about the Better Beef Yard fight on the past weekend?
It was a really good fight. I really enjoyed it. Better BF showed a lot more chinks in his armor than I expected, and it was definitely one of his tougher fights and tougher than I expected it to be. And prior to the fight, I was picking him to beat Bivol, but honestly, after that outing, I do favor Bivol to beat him on points. It was a really good matchup, though, and definitely an early candidate for fight of the year, and just a great fight overall. And shout out to Yard as well. He definitely outperformed my expectations of him. However, Better BF showed so many chinks in his armor that I think Bivol will capitalize on if they
I think age is
possibly
catching
fight.
up to him finally too.
Yeah. Bivol is just a different class of boxer, in my opinion, man. It's technique and skill, right? I mean, he just has it all, in my opinion, right now, and I think that's the fight to make. But the money's in the Canelo fight, so I guess everything's kind of hinging on that.
Speaking of that, I want to bring this up before I get off track. Did either one of you guys ever see Better BF versus Usyk in the Olympics fight?
I saw clips, but no.
Yeah,
I watched the whole fight actually a couple weeks ago. Better BF held his own, even though Usyk's a little bit bigger, stronger, but it's a good fight. Go back and watch the full fights on YouTube. It's only 3 rounds, but go check it out. It's pretty good.
I believe they fought more than once, and I believe Better BF has beaten Usyk in the amateurs as well at one point.
He did beat him in the amateurs. So that's basically all the kind of top storyline. So hey, I just hit on this right now. Devin Haney, Lomachenko, apparently it's stalled now. Apparently it's all about money again here. So do you think that fight happens this year, or do you think it's going to happen?
I saw that coming. Honestly, this is definitely one of those scenarios in boxing where if it sounds too good to be true, then it is. I had a feeling this fight was going to happen. I'm not saying it's not off, right? It's just stalled. However, that definitely lowers the chances of the fight eventually happening. And it's a shame. It's a very good fight. And I actually am edging Haney to win it. It's another fight where I've switched my prediction in the last year or so. Will the fight happen? Probably not. I think Devin's going to move up to 140. It's a shame.
I think
but
it's going to happen just because prior to that comment, I don't know when this comment came out this morning, what I was saying, Aram said, Usyk, Fury's a done deal. Haney Lomachenko's a done deal. We just got to announce a location. There's going to be some posturing by Haney, but Aram said it's done. It's happening in the spring.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's hope so, man, because there have been times in the sport. Honestly, I will say this actually before I'm cutting myself off. Bob Arum is a guy that usually delivers when making in-house fights. So there's a good chance he's telling the truth. However, boxing is the biggest definition of a sport that really last minute switches on us. So I would not be surprised if neither of those fights happen, but let's hope they both do.
I'm going to throw a wrench in this a little bit. How much do you think Eddie Hearns is in his ear still?
I'm sorry, what was that? My audio cut off for a second.
Pardon me. My question was, how much is Eddie Hearns in the Haney's years still? Do you think he's still talking to him behind the scenes? Do you think he's
yeah, I definitely do. Because Eddie Hearn, I mean, I don't know the guy, but he comes across as a relatively friendly promoter compared to the others, right? I mean, they all, to get to that level, it's not the cleanest, but I do think Eddie Hearn comes across as a friendly guy, and he probably still is cool with Devin. He's a businessman. He's smart. He knows that keeping an alliance of Devin is a very smart move, because you never know when Devin Haney will become a free agent again and might come back to Matchroom.
Well, he released him in order to get this title fight, right? I mean, he was with Matchroom until he couldn't be there, and respect to Hearns and Matchroom for allowing him to walk so he could get that fight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he
Yeah.
did sign the 3-fight deal with ESPN. He's had the 2 already. So maybe, Hearns in his ear saying, try to get as much as you can, because he knows that if he can win this fight, if he can beat Aram's boy, he loves Lomachenko. There's no denying it, right? I mean, there's just that love he has for Lomachenko is blatant. You can't
Yep.
even hide it, right? So I mean, from that perspective, you beat Lomo, which I think he will now, based on Lomo's last fight as well. He didn't look as solid as I thought he would.
I
So
agree.
he wins and he's able to take his titles back to Matchroom. I almost get a feeling this is kind of like a Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gahn type of scenario where they want Lomo to win because then at least they'll be able to keep the belts with ESPN opposed to Haney winning and then taking him to Matchroom. So do you see that possibly being a scenario that these guys are fighting through behind the scenes that we don't know?
It's definitely a possibility. However, I wouldn't favor it because there's a good chance he will stay top rank, because if he moves up to 140, top rank kind of has that division in their control as well. So even though I could see where you're coming from, because there's a chance he goes back to Matchroom, I think Bob Arum has some value and some investment in Devin as well.
Yeah.
He's
yeah,
promised him
definitely.
some big fights at 140 to keep him.
Yeah.
He has?
Well, I'm saying that's probably what he hasn't said it, but I'm sure
Yeah,
that's what he's
yeah.
been doing.
So Showtime, ESPN, Matchroom, who has the best roster?
Well, that's tough. Honestly, it's very well balanced because some weight classes PBC has fully under control. I'd say 147 aside from Crawford, 154. And then you got some weight classes that Top Rank has fully in control. 130, not 130 as much, 135,
135, yeah.
140.
Yeah.
And Matchroom has, I'm not sure they have as necessarily weight classes in control, but they have like very well balanced. They have a few fighters here, a few fighters there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very tough. I if I had to edge it, I might say Top Rank, but just by barely. It's very close. I think at one point Matchroom probably was ahead when the zone just started to become a big deal. But as time has passed, I think Top Rank might just be ahead of them.
Yeah, I know. I think we've talked about this before on the
Yeah,
show.
we gave it a
both
top
kind
rank.
of we've given it to Top Rank ourselves as well. Here, I'm kind of curious to pick your brains on this one, man. Anthony Joshua, Jermaine Franklin, is that a good fight for him to start with his comeback?
Not a bad fight. If you told me AJ versus Franklin before Franklin fought Dillian White, I would say this is a poor fight. But many people had him beating Dillian White, and
I did as
would have
well.
had. What was that?
I did as well. I
Yeah,
thought
exactly.
Dillian
Yeah,
White lost that fight.
it was definitely a very close fight that could have gone either way, and I could definitely see how many had Franklin winning. And if you told me AJ was fighting Dillian White next, I would be more excited for it because the buildup would be better, some bad blood, a nice domestic fight. But him fighting Jermaine Franklin is definitely not a bad comeback fight at all. It's not the ideal fight. I think him versus Zheli Zhang or Hrgovic would have probably been better. But this is still a solid matchup for AJ. I don't have much of an issue with it at all.
Well, when I look at AJ myself personally, and I mean, I might be dating myself here a little bit, but if you think about, I almost feel like he was manufactured in a lab, if that makes sense, right? Like in the sense like Backstreet Boys or Spice Girls, like these weren't really great entertainers, but a team brought them together to make this music band. And I feel that's the same with AJ. I mean, no amateur pedigree, what have you, but he just kind of came into the sport late, ruled at the Olympics, and I believe that they've really controlled the narrative on his career in terms of all the people that he's ever fought. So it's kind of interesting to see how they're going to rebuild him now, and he's with Derek James now too, so that should be interesting.
Yeah. They're saying that he's gun shy ever since Klitschko rocked his world. He said after the fight, I don't like fighting like that. I don't want to get hit like that. Ever since that Klitschko fight, he's lost that killer instinct. In every fight that he's had, we're promised the old AJ's back, but he's not. He never has been. So I don't know if he can get that back.
I think it actually got much worse after the Ruiz fight, because at least after Klitschko, the Povetkin performance was still kind of like old AJ. I mean, yeah, there was a little bit of gun shyness, but it wasn't as bad. And then in the Ruiz fight, he dropped him and looked like he was going to put him away, and then Ruiz caught him. So again, Ruiz is really the guy, in my opinion, that broke him. But I think Klitschko's kind of the guy that woke AJ up and made him realize that it's not sustainable to trade the entire night. However, there's a good chance that version of AJ is much better than the AJ we've been getting as of late. I do want to mention I was very impressed in how he looked in the second Usyk fight. Felt he lost the fight very clearly, just like the first time around, but he looked very good, and he would have been able to beat many elite fighters at that weight class with the way he looked against Usyk in the second fight.
The one comment that I had about that second fight, and I said this to Chance, I felt like, Rob McCracken watching at home that night could have trained him the same way. I mean, I didn't really notice too much of a difference. I'm obviously that 9th round was the one that stood out for him in terms of his output and what he was able to do, but he just couldn't build off of anything, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he
You know,
wasn't
and
able to fully build, but he looked sharp. His
he did.
punches looked crisp, looked
He did.
clean. His fundamentals looked better. However, it still wasn't good enough. He still needed a lot more to defeat Usyk. I know it was a split decision, but you won't find one logical person who gave AJ more than 5 rounds in that
No,
fight. And that's even a stretch for me.
That wasn't a split decision at all.
I think he's carrying too much muscle around. He's getting winded. All that muscle takes up more oxygen. He's jacked. He's ripped, right? Like you said, he's out of a lab, and I think that's hampering his performance a bit. All that muscle, it sucks
Yeah.
your oxygen up,
It's definitely not helping him for sure
No.
because
Well-
he's not just in very good shape. He almost has a physique of a borderline bodybuilder. And
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
these bodybuilders, you see them. These guys get out of breath really quickly. Their gas
Mhm.
tank is shot, and that's how AJ looks when he fights sometimes.
No,
Yes.
for sure. I totally agree with that as well. But I'm kind of curious to see what Derek James does with him, man. This should be interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
Derek James is a proven guy. He's got a great stable. Everyone around, everyone he's kind of been working with is been very successful. So I'm kind of hoping, this just change in training and everything. And to be honest, I think he has to knock out Franklin in order to kind of,
Oh, for
be
sure,
able-
100%.
It can't be anything else but a knockout. It has TKO or knockout. That's basically what
He
this
can't go
has to
12
be.
with Jermaine Franklin. No,
No.
way, that would be a horrible look. And I actually think Derek James might be the best choice for AJ because we saw how Derek James was able to turn Charlo into a puncher. The guy who people forget was not a puncher early on. It was always his brother that was considered a puncher of the two.
Yeah.
AJ has that natural power, but he hasn't been able to fully utilize it in his
Harness
last
it.
few fights. I think Derek James will do a good job in reminding him.
Absolutely. Speaking of Charlo, his inactivity, I don't understand. Why haven't they stripped him yet?
Oh, that's ridiculous. What's going on with Jamal Charlo? I've heard he has issues outside of the ring, and I don't want to comment on that. But he's a boxer. He has a career. He's holding other people's careers up. There's no reason for him to still have that title unless he fights within the next few months. Let Carlos Adames fight for it. Let Janovic fight for it.
Yeah, I mean, they were quick to strip Josh Taylor. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't
Yeah.
understand like what their logic is. How is it for one fighter, but for another fighter they can't do it? It's just kind of, I don't get it. I mean, yeah, the fight he was supposed to fight last week. He broke his hand apparently, and that's why the fight's being canceled. Zoo's gone on. He's going to be fighting in March against someone else in Australia now.
Wait, are you talking about Jermell Charlo or Jamal Charlo? I apologize.
Undisputed. Sorry, the undisputed Charlo.
Oh, Jermell Charlo.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I think that fight's gonna get rescheduled soon. Hopefully. I mean, he did. When was his Castano rematch in May?
Yes. But yes,
Well, I don't think they should strip him. However, I don't think they should have stripped Josh Taylor either. You know what I mean? I feel like that strip made absolutely zero sense. It's like he's going out of his way to make a good fight for the fans. They punish him. What I'm more pissed off about the WBC is the whole issue with not letting Bivol fight Better Biev because he's Russian. That's absolutely ridiculous, man. And
But yeah, Better Biev fights up. And Better Biev claims Montreal, so why can't Bivol just claim? I claim another.
Yeah,
country.
claim America or claim Kyrgyzstan or
exactly.
South Korea. He was born in Kyrgyzstan. He lives in America. He has South Korean descent. Let him pick any of those countries. There's no reason for you guys to play it one way with Better Biev because he's your champion and then be biased against Bivol. The only reason they're doing this is they could have more sanctioning fees and make that Callum Smith fight.
Yeah.
Max, I got a couple of questions for you here. Since you are such a big time boxing fan, have you ever been to one of the big fights? Have you ever met any of your favorite boxers growing up or anything like that?
I've been to a few. So I would say the first relatively big event I went to was Demetrius Andrade versus Luke Keeler, where Tevin Farmer fought Jojo in the undercard. Jake Paul fought on that card, which is hilarious,
cool.
right? He had his first pro fight. It's so ironic that I saw Jake Paul fight live. Marujan Akhmadaliev beat Daniel Roman on that card as well. So that was a really good card. It was on a Thursday night, which is so random.
In Florida?
Yeah, that was in Florida. That was in Miami. Second fight I went to was in Hollywood, Florida. It was a Luis Ortiz Charles Martin event. That was a fun event.
How was that
on that card? Frank Martin fought on that card. Frank Sanchez fought on that card. A couple others fought on that card. And the final relatively big event I went to, and I think this one's the biggest and the most fun I had. I was in New York with my family, and we actually got to catch Better Biev versus Joe Smith.
Nice.
That was awesome to see.
Lucky,
So
dude.
those are the three cards I went to.
Nice. Yeah. Chance, unlike myself, I've only been to one so far. We went down to Vegas and we caught the oh my God.
Shakur Stevenson versus
Shakur
Oscar
Stevenson.
Valdez.
Yeah. So we saw
Versus
the
who?
Valdez.
Valdez.
Valdez
Yeah.
Stevenson.
That's cool.
So
That's a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was great, man. We got to meet Terrence Crawford out that way. We met
Oh man.
Teofimo
Lopez.
I spent about 15 minutes talking to him. He was just amazing. I think the guy takes a lot of flack, man.
Yeah. I like Tio.
Yeah. But this leads me to my next question. How do you feel about these father-son tandems, man? Like again, we saw Benavides and his father. We see Tio and his father. Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think the fathers
Floyd and
need
his
to?
dad, Oscar and his dad.
Yeah, but Floyd and his dad wasn't too bad. It's more this newer generation of father-son teams that are coming up. I think the only one that I really enjoy watching is the Haney and father-son connection.
Any
You
and
know what I
Bill?
Well,
mean? But in terms of the other two, do you, especially with Tio, do you feel he needs to drop his dad in order to progress and become better? I think his dad's holding him back personally. That's just my
It's
opinion.
it's interesting because I'm pretty mixed on it. I mean, in a way I like it, in a way I don't. What I saw today, I really didn't like with Benavides' father. That was very uncalled for. This
Yeah,
wasn't Caleb Plant versus Benavides Senior. This is Caleb Plant versus Benavides.
yeah,
And other times I enjoyed. I actually think the banter of Tiafimo's father is hilarious.
yeah.
I like Bill Haney. I've talked to him briefly on a live panel once. He was very chill and very cool.
Mhm.
And a few others, right? But my thought, should he leave Tiafimo Senior or move on from Tiafimo Senior? That's tough. I'm not sure he should necessarily get rid of him. I don't think he should,
Well,
honestly, but I do think he should incorporate a lot of new people in his team because he's looked very poor at 140, in my opinion.
Well, absolutely. You know, and I think he basically squeaked that out. I think in a way, I think you could argue he almost lost that fight,
Yeah, I only had him winning by 1 point, and he
right?
should have gotten dropped twice, so I would have had a draw.
Yeah,
yeah, but
no,
his
but
dad's conduct, like the way the disrespect he gave to Cambosis, saying he's going to knock this bum out, betting on to knock him out first round. You know, you're not training. If your dad, your main trainer, is saying that to you, you're not training as hard for that fight. You're not taking it as serious when all you hear is knock him out first round. You know, downplaying him. But look what happened. Cambosis upset him as a 12-1 underdog.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure, for
right?
sure. I definitely think there's some negatives with Tiafimo Senior. I would honestly
keep
keep
him
him in
out of
the
the
team for
corner.
morale, but also give him a back seat for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, keep him on the team, but maybe keep him out of the corner. I don't know if his advice and you know his direction for him is the right way to go.
I don't think a guy like Tiafimo's dad will take a backseat to anybody. I think you might have to get rid of him. He's such an alpha male. He's so outspoken. I don't know if he could take
Yeah.
a backseat.
Yeah, I'm
All
not
right.
sure if he'd be able to as well. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I think for a vast majority of trainers, they would have been able to tell Teofimo some basic adjustments and he would have been able to comfortably beat George Cambosos. I believe he's a
Yeah.
much better fighter than him, but he looked very confused in there. He was getting no good advice and he fought the same game plan for the entire 12 rounds. And that's why he lost. And as we saw against Haney, George Cambosos, he's not a bad fighter, but he's not on that world level that I do
No.
believe Teofimo at his best 100% is.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'll say this about Devin Haney. I mean, I'm a big fan of Devin Haney. I think he doesn't get enough respect. I think the top 10 is just stupid. I mean, show me a boxer last year. Like 2022 was a good year for boxing. We did get some of the fights that we wanted to see. I think they're taking the lead. I hope it, you know, progresses and gets better and better and we get the fights that we want. But
Yeah.
show me another guy that was undisputed, who fought twice on foreign soil and won, and you know he's everyone he's fought, you know, it's just being a former champion or a champion. Why doesn't he get enough respect?
You know, Devin Haney had a very good year last year, very underrated
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
He didn't win fighter of the year for me, but he was, I believe, my third place. I had him very high, and
Who did you have for fighter?
I gave it to Dimitri Bivol last year,
So
and
do
I
we.
had Naoya Inoue at number 2, and then
Yeah,
Haney at 3. Some people had Bam. I thought Bam had a good year, but he didn't have that good of a year. I mean, he should not have won. I mean, he beat some good fighters, but none of them were in their prime except for Gonzalez, who was a fringe contender. So
yeah.
should not have been Bam. I say Bam had the breakout year out of any fighter, but not fighter of the year. But when it comes to Haney, yeah, I definitely think he doesn't get the credit he deserves from a lot of people. And he's on my pound for pound list for sure, because my rule is if you're undisputed, even if you had a weak run or a strong run, either or, you're definitely on the pound for pound list. Even if you get a gift, if you have that status of undisputed, you're on the list for me. And Devin did that. And I definitely like Devin Haney, and I am favoring him against Loma. And I do believe he doesn't get the respect he deserves. However, I do think Shakur Stevenson will beat him at 135.
Yeah, they're buddies too, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know to the extent because I don't know them, but I definitely know that they have some sort of mutual either respect or friendship.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it. We have, I guess, we have boxing this weekend, but I guess the biggest fights that we're going to see this night are going to be the girls this week. Your thoughts on female boxing, first off?
You know, I don't really have the strongest stance. I mean, shout out to them for fighting, but I'm not the most well versed when it comes to it. Now, I actually had a discussion a couple days ago with my friend Two Tone, the superstar, about if they should be 12 rounds in 3 minutes, and I actually had a very bold take that most people haven't stated. The reason I think they should not be 12 3-minute rounds, I think they should stay as 10 2-minute rounds, is in those 20 minutes, they throw everything at each other and no one gets knocked out. So why would 12 3-minute rounds change that? It's going to be slower paced fights. The fighters are going to gas out. And it's going to lose that appeal that it has amongst fans where when you get a female fight, you know you're going to get entertainment. If they move it to 12 3-minute rounds, it turns into male boxing, except without the power. When it's 10 2-minute rounds, you get an all-out slugfest. And I believe they should keep it like that.
No,
I couldn't
fair
agree
enough,
with
fair
you
enough.
more, man. I totally agree with everything you just said there. You nailed it, man.
Thank you.
No, 100%.
Great take.
But that being said, Amanda Serrano, she's fighting this weekend. She's going for undisputed. She's got the 3 of the the featherweight titles here. So she's going up against who's she fighting tonight here? Pardon me here. Oh, dude, why am I missing this? Oh, she's fighting Cruz. So it's Mexico versus Puerto Rico here. I think Amanda's going to win this one hands down. But the fight that I'm actually looking forward to is the Alicia Baumgartner fight. I've become a big fan of hers over this year after she beat Michaela Meyer.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of us were happy she beat Meyer.
Yeah, well, yeah, Meyer didn't, really represent herself that well, and Alicia just came out really good. So good on her. I think this is going to be a fun card. It's at the Hulu Theater in New York. Other than that, I mean, it's a pretty quiet weekend.
There's a fun fight that I made a video on yesterday between Arnold Barboza and Jose Pedraza this weekend, which is really awesome.
That.
Yeah. Okay, so your thoughts on that? How do you feel?
I think Barboza is going to beat him. I think he's going to get on the inside, outwork him, and win a decision. Pedraza is a good fighter, but I did not like how he looked against Richard Comey. I was picking him to win that fight, and I thought he edged it out. However, it was a much tougher fight than it should have been. And I think Barboza's been waiting for his time to shine. He's been calling out Teofimo for a while, and this is his first big break, and I think he's going to capitalize on it and win a decision. I think Pedraza will make it competitive, but overall, Barboza will figure him out and win maybe 7 rounds to 3 type of decision.
All right, cool.
So Max, one thing I like that you do on Twitter is you like to throw out dream fight scenarios, right? So I'm going to throw a couple of dream fight scenarios out at you and just give me your take on who you think would win. This is all prime for prime, of course. All ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Pacquiao versus Sugar Ray Leonard.
Sugar Ray Leonard, too big.
Yeah,
too big.
Sugar Ray.
Okay, fine. Usyk. Tyson Fury versus Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson catches him early, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Triple G versus Hitman Hearns.
Oh, Hearns. I've never heard that one. I always hear the Hagler one. The Hearns one's a good one.
That's why I switched up.
That's tough, man, because we never saw prime Triple G against a top opponent, in my opinion. That's tough.
I would go with Hearns.
I was gonna say probably Hearns by decision. I don't think it'd be an easy fight, though. I think people
I gotta go
underestimate
with
how good
Triple G. I'm
would do.
biased. He's one of my favorites, but I don't disagree with you. You could go either way.
I just look at that generation, and those guys were fucking killers, man. You look at the 4 Kings in their prime; they could have destroyed anyone.
And it's interesting because I used to think to myself, oh, look at the new technology, look at this, look at that. Honestly, have you guys seen how much testosterone has dropped in 40 years? These guys were way stronger back then.
They also didn't do drug testing back then either.
Exactly. So there were factors that people don't mention. They say technology is not going to get you that far, man. I mean, what do they do? What are they doing? Putting robots in them? Like, there's not much of a technology difference.
Prime Floyd versus Prime Sugar Ray.
Leonard. I got Leonard winning that one.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'll give you one more. Let's go Mike Tyson versus Rocky Marciano.
Mike gets him.
Yeah. I would have to. Yeah, there's no question.
I like the Triple G Hitman one. That's one I haven't thought about because everyone always says Triple G Hagler. Triple G Hitman's actually just as intriguing.
That, right? Try to catch you off guard a little bit. I like how you throw that out there. I like how you throw out dream fights. So I do that a little bit.
You know, it's funny. I put Tank versus Roberto Duran, but anyone with even 1% of a brain knows Duran kills Tank. It was 100% a bait tweet, and it completely worked. Professional fighters responded to it. Lou DiBella responded to it. ES News posted it. I mean, it was 100% bait. Anyone with 1% of a brain knows that Duran would demolish Tank. It was more of like a joke, if anything. And it got the fact that people fell for it so hard is honestly hilarious.
What's the Pacquiao one you put up the other day? You put Pacquiao. I said Pacquiao. I can't remember who you said it was. You had a Pacquiao tweet. Pacquiao versus. Can't remember who you said.
You said Pacquiao? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you had on your Twitter. You had Pacquiao versus. I can't remember who it was.
Who did I do? I'm trying to remember that one.
There's so many.
I think I did Pacquiao versus Loma. I think I did Pacquiao versus Loma. Did I?
I can't remember. I said
I think it was Pacquiao versus. I think it was Pacquiao versus Loma at one. No, Pacquiao versus Jermell Charlo at 154. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. I said Pacquiao. That's the only guy everybody's like, you don't know, everybody's just roasting me.
I think
for that.
Pacquiao would outwork Jermell Charlo. I don't know why
Oh,
so many people think Charlo would beat him. People forget how good Pacquiao was when he fought Margarito.
I've seen Pacquiao fight live 5 times, dude, and I'll tell you right now, I was there for the Thurman fight. I was there against your boy Bradley. I seen him against Vargas.
Three
I've
You were
seen him
there
against
against
Adrian
Yugas.
Broner.
You were there
Broner,
for
one
his
more.
Yugas fight, right?
Broner, what's that?
You were there for the Yugas fight as well, right?
I was there for Yugas too.
So that's awesome that you got to see Pacquiao fight live.
Always
That
my
would
favorite
be.
fighter, right? It's like I'm in Vancouver, BC. It's only 3 hours for me to fly to Vegas. So
Oh,
jump
for
on the
real?
plane, boom, I'm there.
That's
right?
awesome, man. That must have
Dude,
been
you
an
gotta
experience.
you gotta go to a fight in Vegas just because like if it's at the MGM Grand, it takes over the whole place. Like they got the ring in the foyer, they got the elevators with like Pacquiao versus Broner, they got Pacquiao shops. Like the whole fight becomes at the hotel becomes about that fight. It's really cool.
I really wanna go to a fight in Vegas, and soon I will. Not sure when, but definitely in the near future. I would absolutely
Well,
love to.
We kind of fucked up a little bit because what happened is after the fight that we went down for the
Davis and Valdez.
yeah, when we after that fight they set up for the Bivol and Canelo fight.
Yeah, it
So
was the
that
following week.
Monday, so the
Oh.
following Monday, he left Sunday. I was still in Vegas for Monday, but my flight left before they came. So we could have actually, if we had just stayed one more day, we could have seen the grand entrances and having these guys come in. Because even though they were fighting at T-Mobile, they did everything at MGM.
MGM, yeah.
Damn.
All the
man.
press conferences, everything was held there, right? So we missed it he missed it by a day. I missed it by a couple hours.
Jeez.
Right. So,
I know,
but you know, that's just the unfortunate. But hey, I got this one quick question for you.
Wait,
you're
sorry for
younger.
cutting you off. If you want to hear
Yeah.
something that'll also get you kind of another like, oh man. Well, when I was younger, I believe I was 14, and I had an old Instagram account that I don't have anymore, where I used to just post random stuff, and there was a thing where saying, "Are you Team Spence or Team Porter?" And I just posted something saying Team Porter. So I ain't know if that exact picture they did a raffle with all the fighters, and the fighters would pick out. For some reason, they got theirs mixed up, and Errol Spence picked out a raffle, and it said, "Oh, Mighty Max, guess what? I won a ticket to that fight for free, but I couldn't go because I didn't see it till 2 days before, and it was in California.
Oh man,
I could have gone to Spence Porter.
that'd have been sick. That was a sick
That
fight.
was a good fight. That was a good
It was
fight
an
as
awesome
well.
fight. Yeah, strong
Yeah.
candidate for fight of the year.
I love Porter. Do you listen
I
to his
love Porter
podcast
too.
at all?
Sorry?
Have you ever checked out his podcast, The Porter Way?
Yes, I have. I actually knew about it before a lot of people. Saw it on YouTube before when he had less subscribers than me when he was just starting out, and I enjoyed it. I like Sean Porter, very charismatic guy,
Me
and
too.
Yeah.
I would love him to be a commentator down the line. But for that Spence Porter fight, 2019 had some great fights. Triple G Derevyanchenko, Taylor Prograis, Inouye, Donaire won. That was a great year.
Pacquiao Thurman.
Pacquiao Thurman, another really good
Yeah,
one. Yeah, that
yeah.
was such an entertaining year for fights.
Yeah, everything was good until 2020. We won't talk about that year.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Badu Jag, John Pascal was that year too. A very underrated fight. And
Our guy
Charlo
from
Harrison
Montreal,
too was
yeah.
that year too.
I got this question for you, Max. I've been wanting to ask you this, and I think it's because of your age. And then no knock on the age at all, please. Nothing like that. Jake Paul, Logan Paul, misfit fighting. Your thoughts on this kind of I don't know. What are your thoughts?
There's a part of me that enjoys it because of the entertainment value, but they're taking it too far now, man. They're taking it too far. When it was just Jake Paul and KSI and Logan Paul, right? And KSI's brother and a few others, it was cool. But now you're getting these random guys thrown in. You're getting these 2v2 boxing matches. It's getting too goofy for me now, man. It's getting way
But you
too
know
much.
why they're able to do that? Because you touched on it earlier. We're not getting the fights we want. There's a lack of star power in boxing, so these guys can wedge in. If we had better fights and more stars, they wouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah, they're smart because it would make more sense for them to do this in UFC, right? But they're getting all the fights they want in UFC. This wouldn't last in UFC.
No,
in
exactly.
boxing, they know they can get away with it because what are we gonna say? Oh, we have great fights coming up. No, we don't. We don't.
Exactly. We don't even know what's coming up.
I mean, look at the next. What do we have after this week? What's on the 11th? Is there anything?
Give me 1 second here. I'll tell you right now, man. So okay, so basically what we have going on, Baizian versus Fox on ESPN2, February the 2nd. I guess that's tonight. Navarrete versus Wilson, that's February the 3rd. That's going to be on ESPN Plus and Sky.
Wait, that's Friday night?
That's,
oh wait,
that's tomorrow night. Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. They haven't
That's
done that
All
in a
these
while.
brands, Nico
Never.
Walsh is fighting this weekend too.
I got Vargas. No, sorry. The next big one after. So basically we have Adam Azim versus Reyes. That's going to be February the 11th. That's coming out of the UK on Showtime. Vargas versus Foster is on the 11th.
Oh, that's a
Um,
decent fight. Ray Vargas
yeah.
or Shock. It's decent, but it's nothing great. It's not like wow. It's like a
I
solid
think-
fight.
For
Yeah.
me personally, just looking at the schedule right now, the next big fight that I'm looking forward to is the Wood versus Lara fight. That's going to be happening.
That's a fun fight. I enjoy
That's
that
going to
one.
be happening on February the 18th. After that, we just got like, unless, like I say, we always say, I mean, if you're a casual fan, none of these fights. are
Jake
gonna
Paul
be-
fights the 25th or 6th.
26th versus 26th, I think.
Yeah. It's pretty quiet, man. It's pretty quiet here. We don't have
Until Plant Benavidez, right? Pretty much.
March
Yeah.
25th. Yeah, like there's fights, there's constant fights here, but I'm just looking at everything right now. We're basically after this weekend, Benavidez Plant, March 25th is probably the next big fight of any consequence or
That's nearly 2 months, right? It's like a month
Yeah.
and a half,
Month
even
and a
more
half.
than that. Now, if I look at
Yeah.
UFC schedule, because I'm just gonna check right now. So
Yeah.
this week they don't really have anything too crazy. The week
No.
after they have one of the biggest pay-per-views in recent years. The week
Actually,
after they have a
April.
top 3 versus top
No.
4 guy in the weight class.
You got April's going to be sick for the UFC.
Don't
And
forget
you
about
guys watch
March
UFC or no?
John Jones is
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Okay, so I could actually tell you like
Yeah.
okay, so we got Makhachev Volkanovski, which is and that card is great, and that's a great fight. I really hope Volkanovski pulls that off.
Oh,
by
so
the
do
way,
I.
'cause
I'm so looking forward to
If
it. And
Volkanovski wins that fight, he might legit be the go. I mean, he might legit be the go.
I was listening to him talk to Ariel Helwani. Do you listen to him at all?
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, so he was on there yesterday, and he was basically saying that, everyone's talking about how small you are. He goes, look, man, I was small when I was a rugby player. I was small when I was doing this. I've always been small, so it makes no difference. I
Yeah.
mean, I think this is going to be a really cool fight. I don't think Makhachev hasn't fought anyone of a higher stature yet. Either.
I don't think he's fought someone with the grit and determination of Volkanovski has.
No,
We kind
but
of got fooled a little bit with Oliveira, but that was more just he was digging deep and getting these wins. But I don't think honestly, I don't think Volkanovski would lose to Oliveira anymore. At one point, I was picking Oliveira, but the way he looked so bad against Makhachev.
Did he look bad, or did Makhachev just play with him, man? Like
I don't know, man, because Makhachev's had tougher fights against much lower opposition. I mean, who's the guy? Moises, right? Where it took
Moises,
him
yeah,
4
yeah,
rounds
yeah,
to
yeah.
submit him.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
kind of like a
I
slow
almost
fight.
feel, but you know what though? It's kind of these Dagestani guys are like that. They almost like playing with their fucking food.
Yeah.
And a lot of the cases, these guys can finish fights in a round. But it's
Yeah.
almost like they feel like, oh, we need to get some rounds in. So they just play with their food, just
Yeah, you
Khabib-
see that sometimes.
And Khabib's not going to be in the corner, right? So, that's another interesting factor here.
I think
Khabib-
Volk's gonna make it a much tougher fight than Oliveira did. And
think
I
so,
also
too.
want to say, the 18th, Marlon Vera, Corey Sandhagen's a great fight.
That's
really
gonna be
good
a
fight.
sick one. I love Cheeto, man. I love Cheeto.
Me too. And I like Sandhagen a lot too.
Yeah,
March
yeah.
4th, John Jones, Cyril Gain.
Yeah,
That's
Uh,
it all right there.
March 11th, Peter Yan, Murad Vashvili.
yeah.
March
And then-
18th, Edwards Usman too. I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Gaethje
then
Fiziev.
April.
April
That
8th, Pereira
card is
Adesanya too.
fucking sick. Pereira
Mhm.
Adesanya too, and then you also got
Burns
Gamebred,
Masvidal got set. I didn't even know that.
Masvidal against
Burns.
Gilbert.
Burns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gilbert.
I think
So-
Masvidal might chin him this time. I think it's his time to actually get a win. I think he's gonna come in. He's gonna come in knowing if he loses this fight, it's over for him, and he's gonna get one last burst of energy and win.
I think the reason he picked Burns is for this reason. Burns, even though he has a wrestling background and what have you, he will stand and strike with you is what Masvidal's looking for, right?
And he's chinny. And he's chinny.
And he's chinny, right? So I mean, Usman knocked him down in the second round of their fight at the Apex
Yeah.
that time.
But before, I just want to quickly say, sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah.
So I just said what the UFC schedule is. They have literally like 7 really good fights before boxing has like one top tier fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not till March 25th.
Yeah. Is there anything after March 18th? Because I know 287's April 8th. I don't know if there's anything for 25th yet. They're probably gonna get another good fight coming up, but
They always
so many great fights. It's insane.
Yeah, basically March 25th, okay, so for me personally, I'm looking at the schedule right now, the Wood Lara match, which is February 18th. I am looking forward to that.
That's a good fight.
Just, that's going to be really fun. But then basically after that, you got Broner versus Williams. I guess that would be a big, just talking about names, right?
Yeah, when it comes to names, I'm just saying
right?
like my thoughts on that fight.
No, fair play. That's February 25th. And then we basically, like I said, we're boxing fans, so we'll watch this shit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Ramirez, Comey, and Benavidez and Plant are both March 25th, man. So
Ramirez should be fighting Regis Prograis like he should have, but of course he wants more money, which is kind of. I mean, what has Ramirez done after the Taylor loss to earn more than 35% against Regis Prograis? Right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
he
Not
nicked,
much.
he edged out, he squeaked out a win against Jose Pedraza and has done nothing else.
No, that's true. Very true.
And we
I
got to
agree
give
with
a
that
shout out to
completely.
our Canadian brother who's on the undercard of Plant Benavidez, Cody the Crippler Crowley.
I've
Who is
interviewed Cody
fighting?
Crowley. I know
Oh, did
Cody
you?
Crowley personally, actually. Really cool guy. Shout out to him.
Nice.
Right on, brother, man. Sweet.
Yeah, I know
That's awesome.
someone mutually who does business with Cody Crowley outside of boxing, and I've had him on my channel a while ago. It was like July, like nearly like 2.5 years ago when he was only like 18-0 or something. And yeah, I
Cool,
like
dude.
Cody Crowley a lot. I want to see him get a big opportunity. Who's he fighting?
I'm not sure. That's what I was saying. You have the card pulled up there?
What card is he on? The Plant one?
Benavidez Plant undercard.
Hold on, let me see if I can bring it up here.
I don't have it with
Bear
me.
with me.
He's a very underrated fighter, Cody Crowley.
Very, what is he, 29-1, I believe?
He's undefeated.
Yeah, he's undefeated,
He's
man.
a 29-0. There you go. I
Yeah.
thought he had one loss, but I was wrong.
Cody Crowley. Hold on, bro. We're gonna have to kind of.
I would like to see him fight
Jesus.
Butayev. That'd be a great fight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a good fighter. We don't got a lot of guys. Well, Better BF claims Montreal now, so I guess we can claim his.
Yeah, I guess you guys got Arthur Beterbiev now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, we
had John
also
Campbell.
and we also have the Castillo Clayton as well.
That might be the fight that Cody has, actually, if I had to guess.
Against Castillo.
Yeah, they might make Crowley versus Clayton.
That's a
Oh,
whole
man, I don't
Canadian
see any-
matchup then, man.
I don't see anything about his next fight.
Maybe they haven't announced yet, but I know he's on the undercard for sure, though.
Well, I'm just checking quickly.
My computer's not being.
I seen it today
100%.
at the press conference. They were talking about it.
Yeah, he's definitely fighting on March 25th. It's showing.
Yeah,
It's just not
They haven't
saying
announced
who.
the opponent yet, though. I'm not sure.
I wonder. It's probably no one. It's probably someone we know, but probably not anyone that would give him too much issues, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now. Cody Crowley aims to earn WC welterweight shot.
Oh, Abel Ramos. Abel Ramos.
Abel
Who
Ramos.
I've also
Oh,
interviewed,
no.
by the way.
Abel?
Yeah, I've interviewed Abel and Jesus. I've interviewed both of them. They're really cool guys. That's gonna
That's
be weird.
awesome.
First time two fighters I've interviewed fought. That was supposed to happen when Daniel Roman and Rais Salim were supposed to fight, but that fell through. But now Cody against Abel Ramos, that's a good matchup for Cody. I got him winning, but it won't be a walk in the park.
Also
Nope.
on that card, I'm just looking at it right now. You got Jose Venezuela against Chris Colbert's going to be on that card as well.
That's a fun fight. Really
Yeah.
interesting one.
That's going
That's
to be
a
a
good
good
card.
card, man. You're looking
That's
at
not the
that.
only fight. You also have Jesus Ramos taking on Joey Spencer.
Wow. That's
That's a
good
fun
card.
fight.
That's a really good card.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
someone post about that earlier. That is actually a very nice card. For once, they're actually putting a
Stacking
pretty
a
good
card.
undercard on the pay-per-view. So shout out to the
No.
PBC there.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. All right. I tell you what, man, it's about that time. We were going to wrap this puppy up and call it a day and get on with our days and evening for you there, my good sir. Chance, have anything for us today in this day in boxing history?
No, I'm just going to ask Max a couple of questions, throw them out. I'm going to play the name game with you, Max. I'm going to name a boxer and just give me a few thoughts on him if you're okay with that.
Of course.
All right. Triple G.
One of the best middleweights in modern times. I would say the best middleweight of the 2010s. One of the most dominant fighters. And actually, people won't mention this, one of the biggest what ifs in recent history. Who knows how much he would have done if in his prime, if he was in America earlier and if he was in a stronger era for middleweights.
Manny Pacquiao.
One of the greatest of all time. In my opinion, greater all time than Floyd, which is a bold take. Maybe not better all time fighter, but definitely greater all time. Accomplished more. Maybe the best example of what a fighter should be in the sport. Has fought anyone he could. Has accomplished things that really the American dream, the definition of it, and one of the greatest of all time. Honestly, higher than a lot of all time greats.
Absolutely. Roy Jones Jr.
The most skilled fighter, the most talented fighter in boxing history, in my opinion. I really believe of any fighter in history, the most talented fighter ever was Prime Roy.
And one of my favorites from my country, Arturo Thunder Gotti.
Man, just a true fan favorite, a fighter that I truly respect, giving us classic after classic, gave it us all in the ring, and did not commit suicide.
No, I agree. And last one, Tyson Fury.
A fighter who's very talented, lots of natural ability. At his best, is one of the best fighters in the entire sport. Has a very high peak, but is slightly self-destructive and has costed the sport some really good fights in the past. However, could change that very soon if he fights Usyk.
Awesome.
Well,
Fantastic. All right. Well, on that note, thank you, Mighty Max, for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
We really, really appreciate it. I'd love to have you
course.
come back on again, and you know, we'd love to chop it up with you a bit more here. Maybe we can get you back on after this March 25th card. That's
Mhm.
sounding like a real cracker here, man. So
Yeah.
let's hopefully get together for that. On that note, my name is Bobby Sampson. I'm joined with my man, Mr. Chance Michaels.
And in the words of the great AC/DC, those that download, like, and subscribe to our podcast, and please subscribe to Mighty Max's podcast. And on YouTube, we salute you.
Absolutely. We're going to have all your information in the link so everyone can join up and, you know, check out your page and subscribe. You know, on that note, thank you so much, brother,
Thank you,
for
man.
joining us. We love it.
You're very,
And,
very knowledgeable. Appreciate it.
Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Your knowledge is next level, brother, man. We love it.
Yeah.
So for that, in the words of the infamous Ed Whalen, in the meantime and in between time, everybody, that's it for Samp and Chance. And if you guys are going to go out this weekend, please have a great time, but please be safe, be responsible, and get home so you guys can check out the next episode of Samp and Chance. Everybody,
Awesome.
have a great night. Take care and good night.